All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks and Game Time. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth. We survived a long weekend of lots of basketball, and we had some Patriots news over the weekend and today, well, mostly today, Monday morning, that we will get to. And then we're going to turn the rest of the show over to you guys. Q&A kind of reset here, kind of a quieter time between the free agency period and the NFL draft. So any questions, I know some are already coming in the chat. We appreciate that. Any other questions you guys want, free agency, draft wise, anything in between, make sure to throw those in and we'll get to as many as possible. But while you start doing that, we did have some news this morning, and that was the Patriots officially matched the Las Vegas Raiders offer sheet to linebacker Christian Elliss. He was a restricted free agent, so Patriots had right of first refusal. He was allowed to negotiate. He agreed to a deal. I think it was 2 years, right over the cap hit is right around over $4 million, so not too much for Elliss there. But a lot of bodies in this Patriots linebacker room now. They signed Robert Spillane. They signed Jack Gibbons. Tavai, Bentley are still here. Now Christian Elliss is back in the fold. So what did you think of that move? And what do you think of this just linebacker group as a whole now going forward?
Yeah, I think it's a good move. You mentioned the room's kind of crowded, but we saw last year that room can get depleted. Injuries are a big problem there. So they're also like Elliss fits the mold of the kind of linebacker Mike Vrabel is usually looking for. So between him, Spillane, Gibbons, all with Bentley, and I think he'll still play a role, maybe a reduced role, but a role. Like, that's a pretty complete room. We'll see what happens with Jelani Tavai. I'm not exactly sure what his role on the team is right now, but you could argue middle linebacker, among their many weaknesses last year, was one of the biggest issues with the team. And this year, they don't have Fred Warner out there, but that's a solid group, and it shouldn't be something that holds them back this year.
Yeah, the depth once Bentley went down was bad. And Bentley apparently is slimming down too to kind of fit this new Mike Vrabel defense. So a lot of options there. And Mike Reese added too. Elliss is viewed by the team as an ascending player who runs well in his best football. It is ahead of him. So they're hoping to get a little bit more out of Christian Elliss, who really was one of the few bright spots on the defense last year. And, another 5 core team special teamer. So always good. You need to fill out those units. So keep Christian Elliss around in that role. So that was the big kind of news over the last 2 days. Joey Sly followed Nick Folk's footsteps from New England to Tennessee. So the Patriots will officially have their 3rd kicker in 3 years. We've talked a good amount about, not many free agent kickers. John Parker Romo still on the roster. Could be a spot they hit late in the draft or in UDFA. We've talked about Ben Saul, some of those guys, but they will officially have a new kicker next year. And anything else to wrap up the last few days?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have another kicker. That didn't come as much of a surprise to me. Parker Romo might win the job, but I doubt he's going to be the only guy.
Yeah, I think he went 11 of 12 in 4 games for the Vikings. So he was good, but, it's 4 games. You're not just probably going to give that guy the job with no competition. So
actually, have we been on since Diggs met with the Patriots? Oh, yeah, we did that before the mock draft the other day.
Yeah, we got on it was like an hour after it was reported he left. So
yeah, that's right.
You holding out any hope for that still, or?
We know how this happens usually when they leave the building.
Yeah, although he hasn't had another reported visit, but we'll see. I'd still be for it, but
I'm not ruling out him going back to Houston.
Even after they got Christian Kirk?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe a reunion there, but
they traded a future 7th. Kirk's on a no money deal. I hardly think that's a guaranteed roster spot.
Yeah. He has just upped his Instagram usage of videos proving he's healthy. So we're getting in the thick of it. So, all right. That was it's not much breaking big news, but some minor cleanup there for the Patriots for the last few days. So we can take this over to the chat again. Free agency, draft, anything you guys want to know, make sure you leave that in there. And we can start with Pat Stats question of the night. He says kind of just new over the last few hours. Xavier Restrepo ran his 40 down at the Miami Pro Day earlier today. He was clocked. That sets is 4.8. I think someone said 4.71, right? Was that Cam Wolf?
It's 4.7s, 4.8, somewhere in there.
4.7, but it wasn't good for Xavier Restrepo. I don't know, as Pat says, a rookie mini camp invite if he's going to fall that far in the draft, but does he kind of fall out of your board, even though he projected more as that, Josh McDaniels kind of slot there on the inside?
I mean, look, is it going to hurt his stock? Yes. Maybe he falls out of the top 100. You're not drafting Xavier Restrepo to run in a straight line. You're drafting him because he's still a plus route runner who can get separation underneath and in the intermediate part of the field, move the chains. So let's see what the actual time is. I don't think it's 4.8. I think it's me in the 4.7s. That's still not great. Again, maybe it knocks him out of the top 100. To ask, is he even going to be in a rookie camp? I think that's probably a little strong because there's some other things he still does very well.
So his shuttle, I just looked it up. His short shuttle was 4.21, which would have ranked tied for 8th among wide receivers at the combine.
Right. So there you go. That makes it less concerning.
That's more his speed. That's more what you're looking at, Xavier Restrepo. But video of the Hurricanes kicker hitting a 65-yarder down there today.
Yeah, apparently the Niners scout was like right there.
How do you pronounce his last name? Andy Borregales?
I think it's Borregales.
Borregales. Okay. So kicker from that Miami Pro Day to maybe keep your eye on there. But Andrew wondering, how do you navigate this draft if Abdul Carter falls to 4? He's a tremendous player, but that basically puts you in the same position as last year in rounds 2 for 3. And it didn't go well last time picking receivers and tackles. So what is your kind of plan? We're in the camp where if Abdul Carter's there, you don't overthink it and you take him at 4. But then what is your kind of plan after that?
Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Will Campbell, Ted McMillan, whoever. First of all, the Patriots should be trading up from 38. And I would say, as if we're going to do like a flow chart, right? Did you take a tackle, Will Campbell, Armand Membu, whoever? Did you take a tackle at 4? Yes. Move up from 38 and get a receiver at the back end of the first round. Did you take any other position at 38? Yes. Move up and take a tackle at the back end of the first round. Josh Connerly, Armand Membu. I know these guys are projected to go later. I'm not buying the tackle projections this year. This is kind of a theory that I'm really leaning into now, which is last year we saw tackles go around or more ahead of where they were projected. And I don't think that was unique. I think that as long as there's this tackle shortage in the NFL, teams are going to continue to get overly aggressive at the position. Does one of them get to 38? Maybe. I don't think they both do. And I think if you wait any longer than that, you're really testing it. So Carter or Hunter at 4, same answer. Trade up from 38, get a tackle. It's what I did in my mock draft today on 985thesportshub.com. If you want to check that out, I think that's the answer beyond Carter. If it's Carter, you're getting a little less at wide receiver. And now maybe you have a little urgency to sign a guy like Stephon Diggs.
Yep. And if you are trading up, you just can't miss the run, right? Like they missed the run last year and it came in the second round and they missed.
Right.
They had to get the last guy in that run in Caden Wallace. Maybe they missed the Patrick Paul or Kingsley Suamatia. You got to be in front of the run this time to go get the guy you want. So kind of, on that same page, what are you giving up to get back into the first round? Who's your ideal trade partner? Matt here is targeting Josh Simmons or Josh Connerly. I think the popular target is the Minnesota Vikings. They're pick 24. They're right ahead of the Houston Texans, who now project as an offensive tackle needy team, even though they signed Cam Robinson. They did trade Laramie Tunsil, and the Vikings only have, I think it's 4 picks in the draft. They have like a 70 pick gap in between their first and second selection. So that's a team where you look at, okay, maybe they want to move back, accumulate some more assets, some more picks, and that's a good spot to kind of target. But where, you said you did this in your mock draft. Did you go with the Vikings or did you go with another route?
Yeah, so I went a little later to give up less. And this is basically one of the big questions here. How far up do you want to move? And that gets into what do you want to give up? If you're going to give up a second and one of the thirds, that gets you into the early, into the mid-20s for sure, maybe into the early 20s if somebody's desperate. And in this draft, there may be teams willing to move down. The other option, and this is based off a trade the Jaguars and Buccaneers did a couple years ago, and I had to tweak it a bit to make it work, but you trade 38, 106, and then a future fourth. And that should get you into the late 20s. So I traded with the Lions at 28. And obviously not as good of a pick, but if you maybe think those tackles will fall a little bit further, it allows you to keep that top 100 pick, right? You're not burning one of those. And the other thing, I think if you're willing to move a future pick, those are good. I don't think you're going to see a lot of future picks move this year because next year's draft is projected to be so much better than this one. While you're sacrificing future assets for this draft. And along with that, if you are willing to move a future pick, I think it's going to hold more value. So instead of the second and third, it's a second, fourth, and a future fourth. And you're not getting up quite as high. That's an interesting trade. I wonder if they'd explore something like that. Who am I targeting? Connerly or Ursary? I've said this about Josh Simmons. He's a good player. He does not make sense for the Patriots. He's not going to be on the field week one. They need a guy. They can't be picking players that high, and they can't be sacrificing picks for a guy that's not going to help them this year, especially at that position. If you draft Josh Simmons, you still do not have an answer at left tackle. And some people might come back to that and say, well, no, that we have one for down the road, just not this year. Well, then just draft somebody else who can help you this year, and then draft a tackle next year in a better class who's healthy, who you don't have to worry about whether his knee's going to hold up or not. So that's I'm trading back into the mid to late 20s, and it's Connerly or Ursary.
Yep. Will the team draft a tight end? Potential picks? Probably. I like Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren. I don't think they're going to go that route that early in the draft. So you're probably looking, round 3, 4. We've mocked Bryson Nesbitt, Drake May's old tight end in both of our mock drafts, round 6, 7.
Yeah.
That could be a little later for him, but what tight ends? Probably in that middle range, right around, 80 to 120 in the draft. What tight ends do you like if that's the range you think they're going to go?
If it's in there, 80 to 120, so that's not Mason Taylor, right? He's probably going to go before that, I would think. Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, what's their third pick? 69. So
yeah,
in that kind of range.
I still think Mason Taylor is a second round pick.
Okay.
So I'd say Gunnar Helm, Terrence Ferguson, Mitchell Evans. Those would probably be my 3. It depends on what you want. Ferguson's, I think, the most athletic. I think that Evans is like the most NFL ready, the most well-rounded, or I should say Helm's the most well-rounded. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for, where you're taking that guy.
Yep. I like Ferguson. Give me the athlete. I'm a big fan of him. So if he's in that range, and maybe tight end, if you do that path we talked about earlier, where you get Carter first, it's Carter and then a tackle. Now maybe a tight end is a little bit more appealing. There's maybe some more talent in round 3 at tight end than at wide receiver. So I'm a big fan of Terrence Ferguson there.
I just want to jump to this to go back to the Josh Simmons point, the tackle point. This person says, I think they'd be better off finding a placeholder left tackle for the season and drafting one in the first round next year and presumably a better tackle class. That would be great. Who's the placeholder left tackle? That was supposed to be Cam Robinson.
You're probably left with Tyron Smith,
who I don't think is going to come here.
Yeah, I don't either, but that's your best bet.
Right. It's a great thought. It's a great thought. The player you need to execute it doesn't exist.
Yep. Tom wants you to take a victory lap. Chris Sims ranked Kyle Williams as his number 2 wide receiver.
This seems to be the week where everybody's finding Kyle Williams, huh? Like I said, just really good, well-rounded player, competitive, gets open, creates after the catch. I'll have my full wide receiver preview for the draft dropping tomorrow on 985thesportshub.com. If you've never read it before, I kind of do here's the different ranges in the draft and here are the guys in this range. And it's more of me projecting where guys will go than where I would take them. So for instance, last year I had JJ McCarthy in that second group, and I kind of wrote I disagree with this, but so I did that for Kyle Williams this year, where I have him in the early day 3 group, but I wrote if a player is going to surprise us and jump into the top 100 that we're not expecting, this is the guy. So it seems like everybody's catching up. I don't know, Brian. You'll have to tell me when I can't call him slept on anymore, because maybe this is it. But like, welcome everybody. Glad you finally made it.
I think you can keep calling him slept on. I mean, you found him. That's why you tune into Pats Beat. Like
I didn't find him.
we
Washington State found him, but
okay, but in the media, you found him. Like we had a week before the Senior Bowl in our Senior Bowl preview, and then he had a really good Senior Bowl, and now here he
despite
comes.
ESPN's best efforts.
Yeah, seriously, and now here he comes, rising up everyone's draft boards, including Chris Sims there. But he is a good player. Really,
I will
good
say this
player.
on Williams, like looking closer on it, why is he slept on? One, he's one of these late breakout prospects. Like last year he had a decent year in 2023. Last year was his only year, 1,000 yards receiving. It came as a redshirt senior. He's going to be a 22, 23-year-old rookie. So I think there might be questions about ceiling. That's probably why he's a little lower. I want to make sure I get his age right. Nope, not the defensive tackle. Apparently there's another Kyle Williams who is a receiver, not him. This guy's impossible to Google. Maybe that's what nobody knew about him. He'll turn 23 in November. So late breakout player, older prospect. That usually means there's some questions about ceiling. If I'm the Patriots and either it's doubling up or whatever, like I'm taking a receiver this late in the draft, I kind of don't care about ceiling. Like floor is also very important for them at wide receiver. They need a guy that can go out there and be a pro. And I think Kyle Williams will give you that. He will help stabilize things. And then maybe he ultimately ends up being the number 2 or even number 3 to a guy or guys you bring in down the road. But he has much less bust potential than some other receivers I look at, just because I think he's a good athlete and he sees the field well. People are going to hear high floor, low ceiling and think Jalen Polk. It's different because Jalen Polk was viewed that way because of his physicality. A lot of the times with those
different, yeah,
right. A lot of the times with those slides, a different kind of high floor. With Polk, it was like, all right, like he plays physically, so when the physicality ramps up at the NFL level, it won't be an issue. That was never an issue. He just stopped catching the football. Like he wasn't a reliable target. His hands went away. It can happen with anybody, I guess. But like with Kyle Williams, it's more like, all right, he sees the field well and he does have some burst and he's going to be able to run away from NFL defenders. He's going to be able to separate from NFL defenders. And then you see what happens from there.
Yeah. I mean, he's really good off the line of scrimmage and can separate. So like that's kind of the opposite of Jalen Polk. So you can see why Kyle Williams is maybe starting to get some attention there. But before we get to some more questions, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Prize Picks. We know the football season is over and the first weekend of March Madness. Unfortunately, even though we didn't have much madness, but the sports roll on, and it does so on Prize Picks, where you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. The basketball is still in full force. March Madness will be back Thursday. Celtics play tonight against the Sacramento Kings out west. You can put Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, or get crazy. Put Baylor Shireman in there. He is tearing it up. More Baylor points, more on his 3-pointers made. And the Bruins hockey, stupid. No one watches that. But the Bruins will be back in action. I believe Wednesday night. They're still out west as well. Anaheim Ducks. So Fabian Lysell, he's up. He's playing. He had his first 2 games in a while. Played pretty well last night. Looking for his first career point. Put him in your Prize Picks lineup as well. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup, all over on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, let's get back over to the questions here.
What else do we got?
We started a Xavier Restrepo debate in the chat.
That'll happen.
This is a good one and kind of newsworthy because the Patriots are hosting him on a 30 visit. Reportedly, Dylan Sampson, Tennessee running back. How early do you think he goes? And are you a fan of his game?
Yeah, I am. I think he'd be a nice fit. I do have some questions. I think that Tennessee system was just so perfect for him.
Yeah, running into a lot of 5-6 man boxes a lot of the times.
Yeah. So how does that translate? But he's quick. He's explosive. He can play in the passing game. I think he can be a 3-down player. I think I'm a little higher on him than most. I would say I wouldn't take him at 38. At 69, I would say he's probably in play. I'd have to see who else is on the board, right? I'm not taking him over Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson. I might for them, and this is going to be a little bit of a hot take, I might take him over Caleb Johnson for them because I think they need more of that explosiveness than just another bowling ball back.
Yeah.
But yeah, 67 probably is where I'd get him. If you can get him at or 69 is where I'd get him. If you can get him at 77 or even 106, great, right? But 69 is probably, if you feel like the beginning of the draft is going really well and they take him at 69, I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if think he'll be there. I mean, he could go. I could see someone really liking him and maybe taking him earlier. But yeah, if he's,
it comes down to, how many running backs are going to go in the second round, right? Hampton might go first. Henderson, Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Cam Scatabo. One of those guys is going to fall.
Yeah.
So I like the second round.
Third round there, if he makes it there. So, if you're willing to trade out of 4, how far down are you willing to go? Would you trade down far enough if you got a future first? For example, Steelers at 21 in draft Matthew Golden. So you got Matthew Golden and a future first round pick out of that trade down.
Yeah, so I saw another question about this too here. Oh no, I think that's the same one. And it's if Carter and Hunter are gone. I know this might be a controversial take. If I'm getting a future first, I'm going to be pretty open to it.
Especially in this draft.
Yeah, even if Carter and Hunter are there. Now, it's going to take more than just a future first if it's Carter and Hunter. Honestly, outside of that, moving down and a future first might be enough in this draft because I think that's all you're going to get. You're not getting this package. Maybe if it's for a quarterback. But, I get Hunter and Carter are great. And this, every time I give this take, people misconstrue it to say, I don't think Hunter Carter are that good and I'm just trying to trade out of the pick. No, it has to be a real package. Move down, probably stay within the top 20, move down. I have to get a future first and another top 50 pick either this year or next year. That's where I'm starting, right? So I'm not doing this lightly. But if you could say move down to 15, 16, get a future first next year. And I don't know, Brian, what would you rather have, a future second or a current second?
Probably in this draft, a future second.
So move down 10 spots, future first, future second. Would you move off of Carter for that?
Probably not Carter. I'd probably just draft him.
Would you move off of Hunter for that?
No.
I might because they don't. Hunter and Carter are good. I keep doing that, but they're not I don't think either one of them is generational. I don't think either one of them is a guy you can only get every 5 or 6 drafts. So if you have a chance, it's basically you have a chance to add 3 first-round caliber players instead of 2. You have a chance to add 5 top 50 players over the next 2 years instead of 3, if I did my math right on that, or 4, whatever, 6 instead of 4, whatever it is, right? That has to be enticing, especially in this draft. You have 2 firsts next year. Now you can move up. Also, if you move down, and let's say you get the second this year, you can move back up into the first and come away with 2 players. There is a part of me that doesn't hate them taking a volume approach. And I know people are, well, they'll just blow the picks anyway. Who's to say they're not going to blow it on Travis Hunter? He's a tremendously talented prospect. He's not the easiest development path player that's ever come through the draft either. So if you don't trust him to draft, wouldn't you rather have as many shots at it as possible? So, that's not me saying I'm definitely doing it. Exactly how far am I moving down? Exactly what am I giving up? You'd have to give me the exact details. I could be persuaded to move off of any player in this draft for the right package. And any I don't think either of those guys, they're great. They're great prospects. This isn't Drake May, right? Drake May, remember last year, I was saying no. Can't trade it. You have to take the quarterback. Neither one of these guys is Drake May. Neither one of these guys is that level of prospect to me.
Yeah. No, I agree. There was nothing that would really get me to pick up the phone last year for Drake May. I'm not there with Carter and Hunter. I would 100% draft them in a heartbeat, but if you start piling up the picks, especially future first and future seconds, like you could definitely entice me. I would probably still pick them unless it got really crazy, but I've said for a while, like one of the best situations in this draft could be just getting a future first because of the strength of this class, because you have so many needs, just getting enough. Like you go into next year with 2 firsts and you have your quarterback, so you don't have to trade up for a quarterback. You don't have to use one of those on a quarterback. Like you are in a really good spot there. So getting a future first would be awesome. And I would move down to do it, like a good amount.
To this person's point, they hopefully never pick this high again in the short term. They need to draft high and get that blue chip in. If they don't believe the gap is that big, especially at edge rusher, this is a great draft, right? You move down, you get like Michael Williams or Shamar Stewart or Jalen Walker, right? Next year you have 2 firsts. So even if you're picking like 10th and 16th, what did the Texans trade that year they moved up to get? They had like a 12 and they got up to 3, right? So you can pick this high again next year in a better draft. So again, and don't misconstrue this into like, oh yeah, Barth would move down 10 spots and get a second just to not take Carter. No, it has to be a haul. It has to be a real haul. Starts with the future first. You're getting the first back this year, a future first, and then what? Like I would get to the point where I'd run that clock down. I'd have teams bargaining against each other. Can I get a 1 and 2 this year and a 1 and 2 next year? Like what if that's the package, Brian? 1 and 2 this year, 1 and 2 next year. Would you do that? Would that move you off Carter?
I might do that. Yeah.
That's the kind of package I'm talking about. How realistic is it? I don't know. But I'd run that clock down and try to get it before I make the pick.
So I pulled up next year's big board. If you're picking 10th and 16th, you get
and I pulled those numbers out of my ass. I have no idea where.
The Georgia receiver Branch, Zachariah Branch.
He's good.
And then DJ Hicks, Texas A&M defensive line. So you missed Arch Manning by a couple picks.
How high up?
How high up what?
Caleb Downs is 31 on the big 31. Board.
That's crazy.
Disrespectful.
Yeah, there's your
Caden, like 10 and 16, Downs. How high does... Yeah. So again, it's just like, if you can just try to see if you can get it. Like, I don't think it's this slam dunk, don't answer the phone, run the card up kind of pick. I don't think any player in this draft is that caliber.
Yep. If they're going to get it, though, different story. I don't know if any team is willing to trade up. It would have to be for Carter, because I don't think, like, the first question was the Steelers moving up from 21. Like, are they moving up for Shedeur, or if it goes Cam Ward, Shedeur, are they moving up for Jackson Dart? Like, what is going on there that's making them?
They're not going to move up that high for Jackson.
Yeah, Dart. Move up that far.
Or you do this: you trade down, you get a future first. You have 2 firsts next year. You trade again, you get another future first. Now you have 3 first-round picks the year Jeremiah Smith is available, and now you're really in bit. No, they need to get Drake May somebody before then. That's kind of facetious, but yes. All right, let me ask you this one. All right, seriously, while we're doing this, because this is all draft talk is. It's hypothetical scenarios. Somebody's calling you. I don't know about the Steelers at 21. That's probably too far down. Let's call it the
Saints at 9.
The Niners at 11.
Okay.
They have some needs now. They kind of ran through their roster. They have these Niners at 11. They really like Tet McMillan. They want to move up. They will give you 11, a second this year, a second next year, and a first in 2027. So 2 drafts from now. So you're still getting a future first, but it's 2 years down the road. Would you do that?
And I'm passing on Carter.
Hunter or Carter. Would you do it for either?
Ooh, man. So a first, a second, a future second, and then a Jeremiah Smith first in the Jeremiah Smith.
We can call that. I mean, it's going to be the Jeremiah Smith draft.
Will the Niners be that bad that year with that Jeremiah Smith? They could have the Jeremiah Smith pick.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but you'll have multiple firsts now that year. So,
you can move up.
Even if they're not 1 overall, does hopefully the Patriots in the playoffs by then, does like pick 4 and pick 20 get you to 1?
Probably depends who has it, but
or maybe there's some really quarterback desperate team. Does it get you to 2?
That might be enough to tempt me. 2 firsts and 2 seconds is a lot.
Yeah.
So that could do it for me.
I don't know if they'll get that, but I would.
Yeah,
like crazier things have happened.
Part. That's the
crazier
part.
Things have happened.
You need someone to give it to you, but all it takes is one team, right? All it takes is
exactly.
one.
Well, probably takes 2 because if you're going to get that, you need teams bidding against each other.
You need a bidding more. Okay, maybe something a little bit more realistic, and again, something that
come back to reality.
Well, had something to do with today. BC Pro Day. Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf, Ryan Cowden, Doug Marrone among 10 Patriots staff members. There, Matt asked, "Where is Ozzy Trapillo? Their tackle projected to go." He said one of the thirds we own would be ideal on him. That's where we took him in our last mock draft. So. Billy O, very highly complimentary of Trapillo today, said he could play right tackle, left tackle, guard. He was a right tackle, though, at BC. So, I mean, the third is where we took him again. So is that where you would like Ozzy? And I mean, I think all of these BC guys are noteworthy now, especially with their offensive line coach on the Patriots staff. So seems like, there wants to be some sort of pipeline connection that could develop there. So, definitely, I think Trapillo is noticeable.
Yeah, I'd take him in the 3rd round. He's a developmental player. He's probably not playing till next year, but if you have, you do well at the top of the draft, you get the pipeline going there. It also frees you up to maybe start developing Caden Wallace as a guard. And if you put him in the mix at left guard, I wonder if he'd win it over So and Robinson. I actually feel like he'd at least be competitive there. So it gives you more flexibility. They'd have to, you can't do that and take developmental guys higher. It's got to be guys that are playing right away. But there's absolutely a path where Ezaraku makes sense, or where Trapillo makes sense. I'm looking at because I saw this one here, BC Donovan Ezaraku in the 2nd. I don't know if he gets to 38. I think that's a coin flip. If he does get to 38, he would be a good addition. He's Mike Vrabel's, fits the mold of the Mike Vrabel pass rusher. He might just go in between where they're picking. But if he's there at 38, if they go tackle at the top of the draft, that'd be a good pick.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's going to get there. Unfortunate, but
especially you guys like Mike Green falling down the board and stuff like that. I think he's probably the best thing that can happen with Ezaraku for the Patriots, because there's some teams there in the early 20s that maybe need some pass rush, is he maybe, he impresses teams enough that he knocks like Matthew Golden or Luther Burden down a spot or 2 where the Patriots can trade for him. That's probably the most help you're getting off of Donovan Ezaraku.
Definitely. Thought on the Iowa State receivers, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, both as Patriots. I've always liked Jalen Knoll, really good slot. Jaden Higgins too, though, opposite type of player, big, but he can move for his size. So pick what you want. Both of them good players. How do you like their fit for the Patriots?
I actually like Noel a little better for the Patriots. I know I think the consensus board is the other way around, but Higgins, he's a big box out wide receiver. And he's ran a fast 40. I don't know that he plays as fast as he timed. He's a good player, but those kind of receivers just haven't been great under Josh McDaniels. And I'm not against them trying again at that position. I would try a little later on. Can you get Torrey Horton at 106? Right, a little less risk, whereas Jalen Noel is the exact kind of player that has succeeded under Josh McDaniels. Great route runner, physical, has burst after the catch. He's the one, he's more plug and play to me for the Patriots. I think he'd make more of an instant impact, and I think his ceiling is higher in New England as well. So speaking specifically for the Patriots, I don't hate the idea of Higgins. I just think there's a little more projection there. There's a little more risk. I feel pretty confident that Jalen Noel would come in here right away and compete.
Yeah. And he's more explosive too than some of those past slot receivers. He ran a 4.39. He can threaten you down the field. He had, don't have the stat off the top of my head, 50 plus yard touchdowns in college last year. He was near the top of the league, so he can really threaten you that way. But Higgins, if you look at the current depth chart, like they need that bigger body on the outside. So
That's
it
the
might,
tough part. They need the X.
yeah. So, but he's really skyrocketed, really good Senior Bowl as well. Like that could be a case if you don't pick him at 38, he's probably gone. He's probably off the board.
Right.
So
But
if they like
that's
him,
again, so that's again a position where like whether it's a guy like Torrey Horton or I
Trey
want to say
Harris,
Dante Trey Harris. Well, Trey Harris would be if they're going to take that guy in that range. I think I'd almost rather Trey Harris than Jaden Higgins if they're going to draft an X in that range. I was going to say like wait a little later and see if you can like hit on somebody like Jack Betch in the third round or Pat Bryant or I shouldn't say Dante Thornton because that's doing Taekwondo again, but like Dante Thornton either or even Chamari DK from Florida, who's literally just to take the top off guy, but yeah, I'm run wind sprints like Nelson Aguilar and Damiere Byrd. Like they need that guy. So
yeah.
I wouldn't mind waiting till a little later on the X.
All right, let's take one more quick break here. We'll hear from our friends over at Game Time, and then we can hit on a few more questions before we get out of here. But Game Time, we all love going to games live. NBA playoffs coming up right around the corner. We won't have playoff hockey, unfortunately, this year, although the NCAA hockey bracket came out the other night. I believe they're starting in Manchester, New Hampshire. So if you want to go to that up in New Hampshire, make sure you use Game Time to get your tickets. And they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier because they filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Both the Celtics and Bruins are out on the West Coast right now, so the Garden will be empty and quiet for a little bit. But when they come back, the Bruins, I know it's not great for them, but the Washington Capitals are coming to town April 1st, and Alex Ovechkin could be, I believe he's 7 goals away right now. So if he
That
can
sounds right, yeah,
tear it up for the next week, we could be watching history at the Garden as Ovi breaks the all-time goals record, Wayne Gretzky's record. And you could get in right now, $98 cheapest on the Game Time, or you could fire up a super deal and go right down behind the penalty box, $271, or we want to go away side, shoots twice, probably 5th row in the corner, $220 with a super deal on the away side, shoots twice, so we can see Ovi maybe break that record. So make sure you guys head to Game Time for their lowest price guaranteed and other in-app features such as seat views, all-in pricing, and of course Game Time Picks, which again makes it even easier to save more on your sports tickets or any other event you are looking for, such as comedy, theater events, and concerts. It's getting nicer out, although today was crappy, rainy all day, but the sunshine is coming, and that does bring concert season upon us. So take the guesswork out of buying all those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. All right. We'll hit on a few more here in the chat, and then we will wrap this one up. Let's see what we got. We got our Elijah Huzzy crew back, steal the draft, switch them to wide receiver, and don't look back.
Yeah,
Could be the move. Marcus Yarns coverage, please.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to try to get that pass catching back in play, I've talked about, LaQuint Allen and Woody Marks and Brashard Smith. Marcus Yarns in that conversation.
Definitely. Quick hitters. We just got names getting thrown at us now.
Yeah, this is usually what happens. All right, bring it on, Felger Maz style, I guess.
Tate Ratledge, day 2, interior offensive lineman.
So he's a career right guard, not as tough of a switch as moving tackles, but he's probably going to go in the same range as Wyatt Milam. Who would you rather have, Tate Ratledge or Wyatt Milam at left guard? Like I'll go Milam. I don't think Ratledge is bad. I wouldn't be mad if they take him. I feel like Milam might be a better pick there, though.
That's close for me. Probably Milam by a little bit, but I like all those Georgia interior guys. I
Well,
have for a
so some
while,
of it
but
for me, the tiebreaker is Milam might also be able to play center.
center,
So
yeah.
he gives you that flexibility. And, maybe Leighton Robinson comes into camp and looks great and you don't have an answer at center. Well, okay, now Milam can move to center maybe and play there. And so I like the flexibility.
How upset would you be if the Patriots took Ashton Jeanty at 4, gaining more steam, that Ashton Jeanty at number 4?
I think the thing I'd be most upset by is I'll probably be on the air, so I won't get to see Evan's face. That would be the biggest disappointment. Look, I guess I know I've used this line with a handful of players. I've used it with Mason Graham. I think I've used it with Ted McMillan. He wouldn't be a bad pick. He's not the best pick they can make, but he wouldn't be a bad pick. If you're somebody who truly believes, and this is what Jeremiah was talking about on McAfee today, and I've said that I believe best player available as a draft concept is a fallacy. I think it's just a buzzword people use to defend a pick that they have no other way to defend. Best player available, or to defend not take, or to argue to not take a player they don't want to take, right? If you are truly going to go best player available, there's a real chance Ashton Jeanty is the best football player, the most talented player at his position on the board when the Patriots are picking. And I'm not going to knock a team for doing that. Now, you got to spend the rest of the draft hammering the offensive line. Trade up, get a tackle, get a guard in the third round, get a center, get another tackle to make sure you have some depth there and really solidify that, because you're going to be running the crap out of the football. And that line is going to be tested all year, and you got to be ready to go. So if you draft Ashton Jeanty, you have to have a very specific kind of draft behind him, and that kind of limits your ability to do some other things. So, again, I don't think he'd be a bad pick. I just don't think he'd be the best pick they can make. And I'll say this. Wolf said they're drafting the best player available, and a running back is never BPA in the first. Okay, but that you understand that that's a contradiction.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so here.
If he's the best player, you should take him. Because if you're going best player
available,
yeah,
positional value matter. Well, now we're putting qualifiers on it, right? So I always say it's the best player available. I borrow, Bill Belichick's go-to. We're going to do what's best for the football team. Best player available for the football team, not best player. If it was truly best player available, you'd have running backs and kickers going up and down the first round, but we don't have that. Why did the Patriots? There were a number of picks they had during the Brady era, and people always said, Bill, best player, best player, best player. He certainly passed on a lot of good quarterbacks during the Tom Brady years. I wonder why that was. If you're going to draft somebody, especially in the top 100, you do need to have a clear path to them making an impact and being involved and being successful. I do think there is one for Jeanty. It's a little more rare, a lot more roundabout than it would be. And we're assuming in this situation, Carter and Hunter are off the board. The path for Jeanty being successful is a lot more roundabout than it would be for Campbell or McMillan or even like Tyler Warren, but it is there. But again, best player available is a fallacy. If you are somebody who just pounds the table, take the best player available, I don't care, just draft the best player there, you're advocating for Ashton Jeanty pretty much. Whether you mean to or not, that's what you're doing, because he's a better running back than Will Campbell is a tackle. He is a better running back than Ted McMillan is a receiver. He's a better running back than Tyler Warren is a tight end, and on and on and on.
Unless you have you love Jalen Walker or Mikael Williams or something like that.
Maybe Jalen Walker. I mean, some people would say linebacker is a diminished position too. So not take that in the first round. I do think Jeanty's a better running back than Jalen Walker is a linebacker. Jalen Walker might be next. I do think Jalen Walker is a better linebacker than Ted McMillan is a receiver.
I think Jahad Campbell has that same thing too. If you're not talking positional value, Jahad Campbell is a beast. He could be a top half of the first round guy, but positional value. And that's kind of where I'm at with Jeanty. I get the idea of you have a really bad offense, so let's plug maybe one of the best offensive players in the draft into the offense, but that's just not, that's not how I would prefer to build a team, adding a running back when you don't have the offensive line. And another thing, this running back class is so good, just build out other parts, get a guy in the third round, in the fourth round, and you're still probably going to get a pretty good player there, while you get a tackle with one of those earlier picks instead of Jeanty.
I'll add this one. This is tricky. So is Ashton Jeanty a better running back than Will Campbell as a guard? Will Campbell's tape at tackle is pretty close to where Ashton Jeanty is at running back. It's slightly behind. So in theory, he'll be better at guard because most tackles are better when you move him inside. But now he's a player moving positions, so it kind of gets trickier because there's an unknown there. I would say Jeanty, but that's actually, Cole, that's a very good question. That's a hard one to answer because you kind of have to project. If Will Campbell had 33.5-inch arms, it would be I think it would be Campbell at tackle better than Jeanty at running back, but it would be very close. It would be very, very close. At guard, I've never seen him play it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of default that to, it has to be Jeanty.
Yeah, that's the tough thing with Campbell. So I'd probably go Jeanty too.
Yeah, that's a great question, though. That's a good point to bring up. Wait, I saw one other while we're on this. Hang on, where'd it go? Where did it go? Somebody said, here, Cam Ward's not BPA. He's ranked at 21st overall. That's the entire point. That's the entire. So why is he going to go in the top 3?
Daniel Jeremiah, or anyone who does a big board, like Daniel Jeremiah, Dane Brugler, like those are based off just how good the player is. And most of them go, Hunter Carter, Jeanty is third, just because he's like the third best player in the draft. But then when you talk about, if that's not how it works, like teams need quarterbacks. So Cam Ward is probably going to go first overall to the Tennessee Titans, even though he's not the best player in the draft. So
exactly.
All right, so there's our Jeanty talk.
I think there's going to be more of it coming. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, DJ went on McAfee today and started talking about it, so we can all
blame Mike Dussault, I guess.
At that tackle spot, if Carter and Hunter are gone, is Membu more in play than Campbell after the measurements? To me, yes. Like, I am a big Membu fan. I would try flipping him over, and I would take him over Will Campbell. I think you feel differently, though.
Well, so I kind of looked at this. Do you know there's only one tackle in the NFL, left tackle in the NFL, who was a right tackle in college?
Wirfs.
Yeah. So
didn't Ronnie Stanley do it?
No, I think he played both sides, but he wasn't primarily a right tackle.
I thought he was or maybe he started his career at right.
So Evan looked this up and sent it to me. I don't know exactly what qualifier he used, but the point being, Membu's never played it. I think he's played 6 snaps as an eligible tight end on the left side. That's as close as it gets. So he's almost as much of an outlier as Campbell is. And at that point, I'm just going with the more talented blocker, and I think that's Campbell.
So Stanley, as a sophomore, he started all 13 games at right tackle.
Yeah.
And then as a junior, he moved to left tackle and took over for Zach Martin. And then that's all they have on Wikipedia. So he played a full year at right tackle in college and then switched over to 1 year at left tackle. And then I think he went to the draft.
Okay. So he had experience there.
Yeah. So but Wirfs is the more recent one.
Yeah. So I'm still nervous by it. I still, they both make me nervous. Is Membu more in play? I guess, but I still don't think that's it. I think the answer has to be you make the most of the situation, you get another player earlier, and then you trade back up and you get one of those second tier tackles, and you hope you can develop him quickly. I think that's the best for balancing the ceiling and the floor of it all. I think that's, gives you starter, maybe even franchise upside without mitigating the risk of risking the 4th overall pick.
Well, floor, if both go poorly, would you rather have a guard, or you just move Membu back to the right side of down the line, and then you have a really good right tackle for the next 10 years?
Well, now Membu's getting the he's actually a guard treatment, which is how you've made it as a tackle in the NFL draft. So, yeah, I've seen a little bit of it. Well, because he's like undersized and he played guard in high school. Membo might be a guard. So I think you'd have it with either. Again, at that point, I default to the better blocker, and I think Campbell's the better pure blocker.
Okay. I like Membu. I think right now he might be option 3 for me behind Hunter, Carter, Membu right now. The trade down would be 3, and then Membu would probably be 4. But the trade down, I think, is still going to be tough. But
yeah.
All right. You see anything else, or we can wrap this one up?
I'm good.
All right. So we will call it there. Thank you, everyone, for jumping in and filling it up with some questions. Good stuff on mostly the draft, as expected. And we will have Mock Draft 3.0 coming to you next on Thursday, 6 o'clock. Who knows? Hopefully the board treats us a little bit better than it did last time.
I don't think it can treat us worse.
Yeah, honestly. But we went Hunter in 1.0, and then we went Campbell in 2.0. So we'll see where 3.0 leads us in the first round. So again, that is on Thursday. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, subscribe to be a tier member if you haven't already. And then you can also follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com for his Patriots coverage. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to PatsPulpit.com for our Patriots coverage and draft coverage there as well. So thanks again for everyone for tuning in and bringing your questions tonight. And we will see you guys later this week.